entire offensive line is coming back. And Kedon Slovis, on his way from USC, a man who was first team All Pac-12 in 2020, he set the college football freshman record for the best completion percentage ever as a true freshman for the Trojans.
Ever. 30 tutters, just 9 picks.
No one better to break down the quarterback the Pitt Panthers are getting than our next guest, a former Trojan and a former Pitt Panther, quarterback Max Brown, who has taken the Pat Bostic route to fame from quarterback to broadcast booth, USC color analyst, Pac-12 Network Radio. Max, how are you, buddy?
What's up, guys? I'm doing well. It's funny you mentioned Pat's name. He was the first person to text me right when the news broke, so it's a great call-out by you.
And what did you tell Pat? What did you tell him about this new quarterback that we're getting?
Yeah, I first off sent a couple laughing emojis because I was like, man, it's deja vu of 5 years ago when yours truly was going through this process. It's become a little USC to Pitt pipeline. So,
okay.
Hopefully he can have better success than I can. But, no, Kedon's a stud. I think it's cool that you call out his freshman year because it's funny. I'm out here. I cover USC, and obviously he's leaving for a reason. He's leaving because he got beat out and didn't have necessarily this past year that you would have hoped for. But I say that because when you mentioned the freshman year, like, this dude can play. This dude's done it. This dude's done it at a high level. 4 or 5 months ago, we were talking about Kedon Slovis. If he has a really good year at USC, he will be talked about as a top 15 NFL pick potentially. You mentioned Pickett going 8 to the Panthers. Maybe that was Kedon's slot 4 or 5 months ago. So this dude can play, and it's not even hype or recruiting prestige. He has done it on Saturdays, so Pitt fans have every reason to be excited.
So, Max, what are the traits about Kedon that would have made him somebody, besides the production, obviously? What are the things he does best that would make him so attractive to an NFL team? And on the flip side of that, to kind of go two at once here, what went wrong for him this past year that he would need to fix or to shape up for Pitt to get that freshman year, Kedon Slovis?
I'll get real specific. I think he throws one of the best fade balls out there in college football, and I think as an NFL scout, you'd say, man, that translates to the next level as well. He has a tremendous feel for when to utilize the back shoulder, when to throw over the top, and in a day and age in college football where you're trying to press vertical often, he throws it as well as any quarterback in college when he's clicking. I think the downside, or I guess the criticism of Kedon is, hey, his first 2 years he had NFL receivers scattered out there. Michael Pittman on the Colts. He had Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's now on the Lions. Tyler Vaughns is, I believe, Steelers right now, right next door, obviously. And so he had some dudes. But anytime you're putting up those numbers as a freshman, I mean, it's not a walk in the park. So Kedon definitely has some talent himself. I think the next step for him is, I think a little bit of the leadership dynamic got put into question this past year. I mean, it's obviously tough when your head coach gets fired. I mean, that's going to put the whole program in disarray, which is what happened to USC in September. But he's a guy that, and he mentioned that in an interview I mentioned to him, is, hey, grow as a leader and things of that nature. And he's a great guy. I don't know if he's overly vocal in that regard, but when you are a third-year returning starting quarterback, you should be the guy that rallies guys around you. That you never got the sense that necessarily happened at USC, which I'm always delicate of that being a criticism because you just never know the nuances in the locker room and whatnot. And I do not say that in terms of, hey, Kedon is a problem guy or an ego guy or a cocky guy. No, it's none of that. I think it's more so just taking that next step of making sure he's getting the ducks in a row, so to speak, in terms of an offense and as a team.
Max Brown, former Pitt quarterback, USC quarterback, now USC color analyst, telling us about the newest USC to Pitt quarterback, Kedon Slovis, here on 93.7 The Fan. Injury, how much did that impact some of what you're saying in terms of his struggles last year, Max? We weren't watching every USC game. I could text Zach Banner and get his thoughts, but he'd probably give me 5 or 6 F-bombs first, so I'd have to filter through the profanities. Zach. So was there any kind of physical limitations that occurred last year with him?
Yeah, his knee is the reason. So he got a knee injury at Washington State week 3, which then I guess maybe it was concussion week 3, and then it was knee, call it week 8 or so. And the concussion is ultimately what spurred Jackson Dart, who's now the hot shot in USC parts, the youngster, which was Keaton's backup. Now he's the fan favorite, and Keaton's injury led him to play and whatnot. And so I don't think in terms of a true quarterback the injuries are a concern for me, but obviously the injuries allowed his backup to step in and kind of take the keys and whatnot. So not huge injury concerns for me. At the end of his freshman year, I believe it was, he had an elbow injury, which he healed from, but it was a criticism his sophomore year that he was not throwing spirals right. And I know that sounds probably goofy, but I kid you not, that was the talk of the town over here in USC land.
Mm-hmm.
But he grew out of that year 3. I thought he looked sharp when he was healthy last year, and as long as he stays upright, which Pitt returning their entire offensive line is a great sign, I got no concerns injury-wise for Keaton.
Max, what do you know about like other schools that were interested or that Keaton was interested in? Was Pitt the front runner right from the start? Is there anything you know about his decision-making process or what people close to him were saying that made him want to go to Pitt, that made them the most attractive destination?
I can't speak to specifics per se. I saw Notre Dame was thrown out there, which was obviously interesting as a former USC quarterback. But in terms of specifics, in terms of other schools, can't speak to that. What I can speak to is, hey, when I went through this process 5 years ago, and when I put my name in, it wasn't the transfer portal technically back then, but it operated the same way. Pitt was one of the first schools to reach out. One of my favorite coaches, Tim Salem, who's obviously still at Pitt, was texting with him yesterday. He was very aggressive and was one of the first coaches to call, and that goes a long way for a quarterback that is trying to find a new home to have a school proactively reach out to you. And Keaton was a much hotter name than I was back then. But to have a school proactively reach out to you, that's a big deal. It shows that the school wants you, that the school needs you. And I'm sure that went a long way with Keaton. But in terms of other schools out there, can't speak to that. And I'm sure with Keaton, he looked at an offensive line coming back, a Blitnikoff Award winner, a top 20 school, a program that can do some things and win some games. That's an awfully attractive environment.
Keaton Slovis expert, former USC quarterback, former Pitt quarterback, and now USC color analyst Max Brown, our guest here on 93.7 The Fan. Can you kind of take us behind the scenes and tell us what Pat Narduzzi is like in those situations when the old ball coach tries to get involved in the quarterback transfer process? What was Pat's personality like back then, Max? What was he like trying to lure you to Pitt?
Deuce was just Deuce. He was just himself. I think it's interesting when you're a quarterback trying to go play ball for a defensive-minded head coach because you're not so much talking play calling per se and things of that nature, which if you had a play calling head coach, that'd be like the first topic of conversation. But no, Deuce is super easy to talk to. He's got a great balance of being energetic, but not so energetic where it's like, hey, this guy's on one kind of thing, and very easy to talk to. For a guy like me that was, I came to Pitt with my chip on my shoulder and ready to prove something. I think he welcomed that mentality, and got nothing but great things to say about Deuce. And I mentioned Coach Salem, but he was a big reason as well in terms of the recruiting front, the text messages, the calls. I mentioned the energy. That's what Coach Salem brings, and that's what you need when you're a grad transfer guy looking to kickstart the back end of your college career.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Did you see, Max, when you saw Pat Narduzzi, you're watching this guy, he's building a program at that point. He's a couple years in. Did you have this idea in your mind that he was going to be able to get there, to get to the top of the mountain? I'm sure, obviously, you're on that team. You want it to be that year, but did you see sort of the signs that he was going to be able to lift Pitt up the way that they have been so far?
I had 5 head coaches in college. Narduzzi was my 5th.
Wow.
And I was coming from a scenario where it was a true musical chairs at the head coaching spot at USC from 2013 to 16. And so when I met Coach Deuce and the entire Pitt program, what I first noticed is just you sense the consistency. You sense that hey, this is not a guy that's on the hot seat. This is not a program that's looking to, turn things over, anything like that. And I say that because that stuck out to me right away. And I'm sure it stuck out to Keaton as well because, hey, his head coach for the past 3 years has been on the hot seat, literally. And I think that's probably got to be comforting for Keaton to go to a place, especially in a city like Pittsburgh, at a school like Pitt, where he can just walk in, play football, only worry about football. And if he's anything like me, I viewed it as kind of a year-long business trip, so to speak, to try to get to the NFL. That was my mindset. Made some great friends along the way and great memories, and got nothing but love for Pitt, always will. But, I definitely noticed Coach Narduzzi's just entire culture he was bringing, and it's awesome to see Pitt bring home an ACC title this year.
Max, when I've watched a little bit of this Brady documentary series that's on ESPN, and there's, former quarterbacks like Drew Bledsoe in New England talking about what they saw from Brady in practice his rookie year and then 6th-round pick, climbing the depth chart, what he was doing before he turned into Tom Brady. And so you got to see Kenny Pickett at Pitt from the very beginning, the embryonic stages of his development. What did you see extremely early on in Kenny Pickett before he turned into a Heisman Trophy runner-up candidate, Kenny? Max, sorry.
Yeah, no, early on, that was Kenny before he had the gloves out and anything of that nature. So this is OG Kenny. This is him with a little Justin Bieber haircut and whatnot. We actually took our official visits to Pitt the same exact weekend. It was December 7th of 16. So it was we were always pretty close because we came in at the same time and we're together that spring ball. I think the first thing I noticed, and I've been saying this every time I'm asked about Kenny, and it's funny you mentioned the Panthers at the 8th spot. In my college career, the two quarterbacks that had the easiest transitions to college, or another way to say it is they had the least, the lowest learning curve or adjustment, were Kenny Pickett and Sam Darnold, the two dudes I played with. Sam came in the spring or the summer of 2015, and I remember thinking, like, man, this guy's just he's not missing a beat. He was a little raw, but quarterbacks always have that learning curve, or most quarterbacks have that learning curve of getting used to the speed of the game, getting used to getting the ball to your hands quickly, and things of that nature. And sure, both Sam and Kenny had a little bit of that, but I remember right away saying, hey, Kenny, he doesn't have much of it, and it's only a matter of time for him. And I remember having conversations with our offensive coordinator at that time, and probably even Dews as well, of they knew that Kenny was the future, whether that future was going to be, hey, week 6 when I got sacked and ripped up my shoulder and Kenny went in there, or if they thought, hey, it was going to be 3 years later, they knew they had an answer in the future in Kenny. And he's a dude that right away always had a knack for getting the ball out of his hands, timing, throwing guys open, had a stronger arm than I remember thinking that he would have as a high school senior at that time. And the thing that I'm always impressed with Kenny, and any NFL scout is going to see us, is that dude's level-headed, man. There's no ego. It's the same Kenny from the jump, and that's what's been awesome to see. And for a guy like me, it's easy to root for a dude like that, and easy to be happy for a former teammate. So got nothing but praise to put towards Kenny's way.
Max, quarterback on quarterback here. Opinion: what did you think of the fake slide that is now illegal in college football because of Kenny's athletic ability?
I loved it. I'm pissed off. It's illegal. I think it's savvy. I think it's sweet. I love that he pulled that out, and I was the guy that had a dang big old knee brace on my left leg, so I don't know if I could have been as mobile as Kenny, but he has trademarked that move for sure.
Max Brown. Hey, Max, glad to hear that you're doing well out in Southern Cal, and thanks for giving us the skinny on the newest Pitt quarterback who just copied you.
Sounds good. Appreciate you guys.
There you go, Max Brown.